Hey folks, Steven here, Green Effect Podcast, Season 4, Episode 7, live on the air. I got the glasses on. That tells you it's later in the day. I'm not doing this first thing in the morning like I normally do, and I'm tired, all right? So this might be a more cranky episode than normal, especially because we got to talk about Tiffy Boy and the B.O.C. and their announcement, as well as some other kind of crazy numbers that have come out. Um, where do we start? Let's start with the Bank of Canada. Okay, and Bank of Canada did not move prime lending rate last week. I said it on the show. There's just no way. All right, we're not going up. We're not going down yet. They're just going to stand pat for now. All right, we're probably not going to see rate movement until the summer. All right, I think Tiffy Boy has already said that housing is not a problem. It's not his problem. All right. Bank of Canada has one job and one job only. That is control inflation, manage inflation with the one bazooka they have, which is managing the prime lending rate. Okay. That's it. That's all. That's all they've got to do. Okay. They've done it horribly bad or not good, but they've done it. Okay. So, in his announcement last week, that was his main message, right? We can't go too fast. He even did say that if he goes too fast, he could propel the economy. Now, let's just talk about what's happening right now in the economy, okay, relative to housing, because his comment around not wanting to do too much to really kickstart this whole thing, like shooting a rocket up in the air, makes a lot of sense. So I'm doing this podcast a little bit late in the week, Tuesday, March 12th. Okay. And I'm telling you, last night I was up late, or I had my incredibly romantic evening with my wife disturbed watching our shameless TLC smut shows. um, it was disturbed, so maybe I should be happy about this. It was disturbed by calls from realtors and clients that I have that are working with me because they were going into multiple offers and not like four or five. Like we're talking a 650,000 price point with I think like 19 offers. I had another one. I believe the price point listed at 500, and there's like I don't know 20 offers. So I'm now, for the first time in a year and a bit, I'm now having clients ask me about what happens if I go firm with no conditions, which is, of course, is a humongous risk. So the market is heating up with just fixed rates coming down. We now have, for the first time, lenders offering under 5% 5-year fixed default insured mortgages without us having to ask for discounts off the rate separately from what's posted. Okay. So that's what's happening right now in the market. If you got a house to sell, man, you're getting pretty close to trying to cash in again, right? Because again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we don't have a lot of inventory, right? Remember that 25-to-1 ratio? For every 25 new Canadians, we're building one single family home. And remember that stat that I put up about single family housing permits being the lowest since like 1990? Okay, it's like 30 something years ago. So I get what he's doing. If he drops that a little bit, all hell's going to break loose, even worse than it is already. I have been very busy pre-approving my clients. Like people are coming out of the woodwork, maybe I haven't spoken to in a year and a half. All the people that said they were going to wait, they're now not waiting anymore and they want to get pre-approved because they see, again, fixed rates coming down a little bit. They see the hope. Remember I say, as long as there's hope, our Canadian housing market will move. And that's what's happening. We have weird things. My God, I was gonna check my phone because it's on the app, but Bitcoin, guys, the economy. I'm telling you right now, and for those of you watching online right now, you're just watching me look at my phone. Bitcoin is going up, and it has gone up. like 150% or something over the last month or a few weeks. And even all the stock markets are strong as well. People are starting to price in and have behaviors of a decreasing rate environment, okay? Or as the Bank of Canada likes to say, quantitative easing, because we've been in quantitative tightening for a little bit, right? So I'm kind of combining two topics here, but Tiffy Boy cannot drop rates right away because it's already heating up. Already house prices are going up, and that's what's happening. If you want to know the update on the market, that's your update. It's getting busy. People are out there looking for homes, and there's multiple offers on everything. Um, I think to give some more detail, I don't think he wants to give a false sense of. Again, he kind of created this problem a little bit, but I don't think he wants to give a false sense of hope to the economy that hey, things are going good. Go ahead and start dropping. Now, I will say this, and I am totally stealing what I'm about to tell you from someone who said I'm okay to steal the information, so it's maybe not theft, it's permanent borrowing, but I think we're going to see more than 0.75 rate decrease. And I'm looking at some statistics. I think things are worse than they're leading on. We just had the job report come out in Canada. It rose a little bit. For some reason, the public sector is hiring a lot of people. I'm not sure why. Not sure we need all those people, but we're hiring. All right. Um, but the job report pretty much came out stable. Like it didn't go up. It went up a little bit, but not a lot. The unemployment number. But in the research and the data that I have, which includes a couple of things, business insolvencies are through the roof. No, should not be a surprise. When you got rates this high for this long, businesses are going to start to suffer. They just are, right? Not only rates, but think about your own family. I know our family, we don't go out to eat very much anymore. We just don't, right? Everybody is tightening up their belt a little bit with expenses, right? We do this almost every 2 or 3 weeks. Is there any subscription services that we can get rid of that we don't need, right? For the first time ever, we are taking the advice of Disney Plus lady and maybe getting rid of Disney Plus. I don't know. We'll see, right? Who knew we'd be in this world where I take the advice of Christia Freeland? But that's the reality of it, right? Every household is not spending money right now, or they're spending very, very frugally. Okay, I consider our family to be, middle class, kind of, knock on wood, we're still able to, support ourselves in the whole bit. Do I go looking for the 50% stuff at Zaire's? Damn right I do. Sure I do. Right? So I think every family is doing this. Business insolvencies through the roof. Monthly corporate bankruptcies through the roof. Like I've posted about this on social media. Check out my social media. Um, what was the other one that was pretty crazy? Okay, on the topic of things might be worse than they seem. So, mortgage delinquency rate, always remember this, in Canada is always relatively low. Relatively low. There's about 5 million mortgages in Canada, which, big picture, is not a lot, relatively speaking. But it makes up, the housing market makes up so much of our GDP that, you know what, it's part and parcel of it. So it is kind of big, even though it's only 5 million. Well, our delinquency rate has gone from 0 point, I think it's 0.17 to 0.18, which is like not very much. The US is a lot higher. The US is always higher because their banking system is very, very different. But here's the thing. So here's the thing where I think it might be, and don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying people are just going to stop paying their mortgage. I think mortgage delinquencies alone are kind of really not something to be concerned about yet. But when you take all the other stuff, when you've got corporate insolvencies, corporate bankruptcies, higher mortgage payments, all that stuff, when mortgages are coming up for renewal, when I see a statistic here showing that monthly change in delinquent mortgages in Canada went from about just under 200 to almost 500 in 1 month. Again, big picture. Hey, listen, 500 divided by 5 million. You're hearing my calculator bounce off the table. That's 0.001% of the mortgages have gone delinquent. I don't think this in isolation is an issue, but when you put it all together, I personally think that based on the stats, things are probably worse than people think they are. And I think in the background, my guess is that Tiffy Boy and the B.O.C they're gonna have to drop rates at least in the summer, and probably for I'm thinking they gotta go more than 0.75. I really do. And even consumer confidence, for example. Consumer confidence is going up. Well, wait a second. I thought rates were really super high. Like, why are we doing that? Right? So I think when we put some of these things together, I genuinely think and again, based on data that I'm being presented with, and the guy who said I could steal his information, I genuinely think that we're probably going to have some steeper rate drops than people are thinking around that 0.75. So, I'm probably contributing to the problem here by saying that, but I genuinely think that. Now, again, on the fixed rate side, banks have been extremely aggressive on the fixed rate side. We are seeing a lot of certain terms, certain lenders on the prime side, we are seeing rates generally below 5%. Okay, which remember this, when we tell people rates are probably going to go down over the next few years, we're not saying they're going down to 2%, everybody. We're not saying that at all. We're saying we could see 4, maybe 3.75, a rate sale at 3.50-ish. That's not bad. That's not a bad place to be. And then some very healthy up and down, a 0.25% here from Bank of Canada, a 0.25% there, a little bit up and down. I think that would truly be a little bit more effective, we'll say, right? And I think on the topic of rates, we're also from a market update sense, we are seeing more and more people look at the variable side. Like people are betting on variable and rates coming down. Like that's a real thing. People are actually doing that, right? So I think at the end of the day, as a mortgage agent, my job really is to gauge what the risk factor of the client is and then make some decisions and help them decide as to what they want to do and proceed. We spend a lot of time giving some education to clients, based on stats and data to try to help them decide on what rate they want to go with and really strategize as much as we can, right? So that's kind of what's happening with the market. On that note, again, if we're taught, I want to throw one more stat at you here relative to what the current state of the world or Canada is. Crazy number out from RBC. Okay, and if you guys don't follow stuff on RBC Economics, rbceconomics.com, I believe it is. You really gotta watch what they're doing over there. So they've got some fantastic information. But Canadian household debt ratio, debt service ratio to climb higher. So debt service ratio is basically debt payments in a household as a percentage of after tax income. It's just another number to follow to see what's happening relative to households in Canada. Okay. So, as an example, during COVID and during all the quantitative easing, when all the rates were falling through the floor, percentage of after tax debt was like 12%. We've had a steady increase through our quantitative tightening cycle. We're up over 15%. And they're calling for this to continue to increase. Well, that's not good, right? But if you watch me if you see my stuff on social media, you're going to see household debt is increasing. People are buying their groceries. They used to buy their groceries on a credit card just to get the points. Now they're putting it on a credit card or a line of credit and not necessarily paying off the whole thing just to get through because people can't afford it. I think I said this on a previous podcast. We have two dogs. They're bigger dogs. One's like 60, one's 70 pounds. Sweethearts, okay? We went to get dog food. It was like $500 for the month. Dog food. It's insane. I went to Zares, as you guys might know, I'm trying to eat healthier and all that stuff. I went to Zares and I tried to, get some healthier vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. And it was like $150. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell's going on? It's insane. So household debt is just increasing and it's going to continue. And this is another reason why I think we're going to have to see some of these rates come down. Like, otherwise, we're going to have a very big issue that I don't think people are going to want to deal with, right? I mean, I said on the last podcast, what if rates stay higher for longer? What if that happens? That's possible. But again, based on some of the data I have now, I don't know, guys. I think it's worse. I think the permanent residency applications are way down. Nobody wants to live here anymore. Nobody wants to move to Canada. That's going to impact our economy, right? So I don't know. This is going to be really, really interesting to see how it all plays out as time progresses. So, what was the other thing I wanted to mention to you? Oh, side note, just for fun. Hey, if you have an Airbnb, if those people even still exist, um, I don't even know how this happened, but Airbnb to ban hosts from using indoor security cameras in rental properties. That was already a rule, wasn't it? Apparently it wasn't. So it's crazy because you're not supposed to have indoor cameras on an Airbnb for super obvious reasons. We never had them in ours. We had one, right? It's a property we used for just to kind of pay the mortgage during when we weren't there. We used it as our owner occupied in case CRA is listening. We don't have it anymore. We got rid of it because it's just too much work, to be honest with you. Um, but now there's a policy. So just so you know, if you ever go to an Airbnb, don't worry. There's no cameras inside anymore. That's so weird. But anyway, I don't even know what's going on with Airbnb. I don't know a lot of people who even still have them unless it was a full-time business for them, because it's just a tough one to manage. People aren't really traveling very much. If they're traveling, they're doing cheaper to Cuba or a sunshine place where the price is all inclusive, right? So, okay, what was the other thing I wanted to mention? Give me one moment here. I had it and now it is gone because why not? Did I lose it completely? Talked about business. Talked about the job rate. Okay, so job rate came down, which is fantastic. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. So, landlord tenant board. And I talked a little bit about this, I believe through social media, right? We have a massive issue with landlord tenant board. Massive. And it's not getting any better. All right. It's almost impossible for people to find a place to rent. And part of it probably is because people who shouldn't be renting are renting, but they're not paying their rent. I think I mentioned this on last week's podcast. Toronto, 19% are probably delinquent, not probably, are delinquent on their rent payments. That's insane, right? One in every five. So I think I did mention that in the last podcast. But this is something where like it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I don't see what the solution is other than having harsher penalties for people who don't pay their rent, right? And I know people are always, um, talking about, renters, they have rights and stuff like that, which they do totally. But in Canada, we have so many of these ma and pa type setups where they do depend on the rent. They're not big corporations, right? So anyway, just giving you a quick update. That is still just not going very well. Um, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's a rough one out there if you are a landlord right now. Okay, that's all I've got. Those are the big things, quick and dirty, only about a 20-minute podcast, which is fantastic. I like to get right to the point with stuff. If you have any questions, please reach out. Oh, I will mention that as well. I'm still on this crusade, okay? If you have a mortgage coming up the next 2 or 3 years, get at me now, right? I've met with clients. People actually listen to this podcast, which I know blows your mind that it actually happens, but I've actually had people reach out to me as a result of listening to what I'm saying on the podcast. And sometimes I sit down with people and I'm like, man, we got to do this, this, and this to make it work for your renewal. Other times, like, yeah, you know what? You guys are on the right track. This is fantastic. Let's keep track. Let's stay in contact. If anything comes up, I can definitely talk to you about what do we do here? What do we do there? Make some changes and pivot. Make sure you're on my radar. Okay. If you need a mortgage professional, make sure you're on my radar because if things change, if we got to tweak things, whatever, it's good to have someone in your corner who knows you, knows your business, knows what has to happen. It is going to be critical going over the next few years. Okay. Don't hesitate to reach out, lendmemoney.ca, and then you'll find me, or just Google my name, serious, you'll find me. It's not a big deal. All right. That's it for today. Love me, like me, want me, follow me, desire me. 5 stars, baby. That is the number that we take and we accept only. And as we end up all these calls, keep fit, have fun.